Welcome back, Stasa23 here, back again with some knife therapy. And first off, before I get started, I'd like to say thanks to my buddy Tony Meader. Go check him out on Instagram. He sent me this knife on loan for review. And the knife I have in front of you is the giant Mouse GM3. And this knife, whenever it was available, came in right at I think $325. And now you can find them on the secondary market. I'm not sure exactly how much they go for, but let's dive into it, see what we have here. And first off, we give a little background of this knife. This is an American-owned company, produced in Italy, with two of the most remarkable custom knife makers, Genzanzo and Jesper Voxnaes, coming together with their collaborative designs. So they're the designers behind all these knives, and what they do is they do a run of 400 knives, and each one of them is numbered, and out of those 400 there are 100 of them that are special versions of the knife, and they are labeled as a special version. I think this one was the GM3P, and I forgot what, I think it stood for Pirate or something like that, and it was like a bronze handle I think, or copper handle, and it was really cool looking. But these are definitely, you're paying for both the designers, their design work, and you're paying for an exclusive knife that is a numbered knife, and once the 400 are sold, they will never make this design again. So this exclusivity makes it appealing, along with having those two designers, you know, coming up with a quality knife. So let's dive into the knife. This is the bag it comes in. It also comes in a box, but this is what Tony sent me, a nice little cloth bag. It's a nice little added touch. So we're gonna dive into this beautiful, very attractive drop point blade. It's got a satin finish, and it's made of Bowler M390, one of my favorite steels out there, a very high performance super steel. Flip it up right here, you have a nice attractive crown spine. To me, the crown spine just it just makes it look expensive regardless of the price tag. I love that feature in a knife, especially on an everyday carry knife, which I would definitely classify this as an EDC / maybe office carry, gentleman's carry. Just a nice size and weight. As you can see right here, you have a sterile blade, which I really love that. It's nice not having billboarding all over the blade. Also, something that anybody who's watching my channel knows, I love this. They executed the sharpening choil perfectly. You're not going to have any problems when you sharpen this. It's not going to have a wonky grind. And the sharpening job on here was done to near perfection, even on both sides. This sharpening choil is big enough if you had a small finger. I mean, my medium-sized hands, I can kind of creep up on there if I want to do some intricate work, but I don't feel super safe doing a lot of work like that. So if you have bigger fingers, it's definitely not, I don't think it's intended to be a forward finger choil. If you look up top right here, you have very subtle jimping, but it's nice and functional. Whenever you bear down, it does grab your finger, but you can go past it. So like I said, it's there, and if your finger does land on it, it is pretty effective. Let's see if I can show that to you. It's kind of got those deep little grooves, and it is rounded over, but your finger does lock into there. You have a nail nick on just one side of the blade. And let's close it up. And if you look around, you have some nice chamfering going around all around the knife. You have no sharp edges at all. Even right here, you have it softened all right there, all right here. Definitely a lot of milling work went into this knife. The flipper tab is executed really nice. As you can see, the curve of the handle, when you come right here, you're going to completely pass up that flipper tab. And I'm perfectly fine. You know, I don't care if it's a little bit bigger or not. But whenever it is smaller like this, you know, the one thing I look for, make sure it's executed to where you don't have to think about it and you can just put your finger on it and flip it. So you have that jimping right there. That is just like this jimping. It grabs on the finger when you put pressure onto it, not overly sharp. And some other nice added touch to it. You can see how they crown the top of this, and the inside right here is all crowned. Just some nice added touches to the knife. And as you can see, the action is really nice and snappy. The detent has got a nice little positive click to it. It's good with the light switch, and if you put your finger on that flat portion right there, you can do the push button. It's more geared toward the light switch, which is evident with the jimping being right there on the top. Alrighty, let's go into the handle. Let's see, wait, make sure I didn't, okay, let's go into the handle. You have titanium frame lock. Like I said, everything's nice and contoured. You have just standard Torx pivot and handle. Sorry, my dog's about to go crazy. Around the pivot, you have a gray pivot collar on both sides. You have a titanium backspacer that has some nice, it's nice and crowned, and it has a little bit of jimping right there. And the lanyard hole is incorporated into that. I like the way this is done. It doesn't break up the lines. You don't have a piece sticking out right here. It just stays with the flow of the lines. And you know, if you use lanyards, throw one on. If not, it's not breaking up anything. It's not my favorite way to do it. I much rather a pillar inside the knife so you don't see it at all. But if I had to go any other way, this is perfectly fine with me. Let's go into the blade to handle ratio. It has great blade to handle ratio, almost 1-to-1. This comes up enough to where when, as long as everything's sitting the way it is, I can't catch it at all. But, if this was pushed up at all or anything like that, you could, possibly get it in there. But to me, that's good to go. I can't rub my finger in there. The blade is sitting rather close to the edge of the scales. I don't have any issues going back. I mean, I put it in and out of my pocket. I didn't have an issue, but it is, you can look at that. You can see it being right there. My camera does not want to focus today. Right there at the edge. That's, could be dangerous. I didn't have an issue with it, but I thought I'd mention it. Coming over to this side, you have a nice 3D milled titanium pocket clip that is blasted, unlike the frame is stone washed. And as you can see, you have the Giant Mouse logo right there that is somewhat ghosted, because if you got it down here, you really, God dog, my camera doesn't want to play nice. You really can't see it unless you're really paying attention for it. And I think that's a nice little touch. Take it if you want it, and if you don't, oh well. And being that it is a blasted clip, you can see snail trails that develop on there. Let's go into the ergos. I tell you what, ergos are spot on. When in the hammer grip, absolutely no hot spots because everything's nice and rounded. Saber grip is really nice because you got that crown spine for your thumb to sit on. This grip is just as good as the rest. And flip it over into that reverse grip, which I never use, is also a-okay. There's something I was just thinking about that I forgot. Also, when you flip the knife, you have a nice landing pad for your finger because they chamfered out some spots in there, as you can see, for your finger to land. That's just another added touch to this knife that just shows that they went in with the extra details. And it just shows you the design influences of both Fox and Anzo. Another thing that makes this a very appealing EDC knife, for me especially, is how slim it is this way and this way. This was an absolute joy in the pocket. And another reason for it to be a joy in the pocket was because it was only 3.2 ounces. That is super light. especially for an all titanium knife like this. And let's see, let's look inside there. Whoop. And as you can see, it's not milled out at all on this scale. I'm guessing because it's a thin scale as it is, and there's really no milling in the inside there either. So very, very impressive. And I love a knife to be a good performer. You know, that's its main job. That's his one and only job, is to cut things. And I was cutting up. I started with some thin cardboard, and it was shooting through it like a lightsaber. So after I finished cutting up the cardboard, I was like, I had to see how thin it was behind the edge because of how well it was cutting. And you have this full flat grind, so the performance is absolutely amazing. Let's see how thin we have it behind this edge. A Delica is right at 0.02. And this guy is 0.016 behind the edge. Let me make sure I'm getting right behind the edge. There you go, 0.019. So right at Delica thinness, especially Delica thinness with Bowler M390. Absolute performer right here. And I'll say the design, the performance of the blade, absolute home run. That's why I wanted to check this knife out so bad. It appealed to me aesthetically and performance-wise. So, talk about all the things I love about this knife. Let's talk about some of my nitpicks. Well, before I do that, let me do some quick size comparisons real quick. First up, the Booz Blade Smoke. These two somewhat similar. The Smoke is a little bit bigger. Next one's really close in size. This is the Spyderco Schlicht Bowie. I think these are almost identical in size. There you go. The Bowie might be just a titch longer in the blade. Let's see what else I have nearby. Another slender EDC carry. The CRKT Crossbones, which is a good bit bigger. And one more, well, I got two more. The Southern Grind Spider Monkey, which is pretty close in size. The GM3 has a little bit extra blade. One more last one. Let's see, the Kershaw Skyline. The name kind of escaped me for a second. The Skyline, just a tad bit smaller. So, I talked about tons of things I love about this knife. So what would cause me maybe not to buy this knife or not to seek it out? So let's start out. First off, I don't understand why they went gray on gray with this pivot collar. I would have loved to see the blue accents that they did on the GM1, I think it was, and the 2. I don't understand why they took that away here. I think that would have been a nice pop of color. Anything other than gray on gray would have been nice to me. It just kind of seems like, what's the point of having it there? It doesn't do anything aesthetically for me. I mean, I know it matches the pocket clip, but I don't know. I don't see. It's like a wasted effort there. Next, one thing that, especially like I say a lot when you're buying a higher end knife, all the little details matter, or at least in my eyes they do. And one thing that I look for sometimes in a knife is the way it sounds when it opens. Does it have that nice positive click? Does it sound like a quality knife? And just listen to this. I'm going to be quiet and listen. It just sounds cheap. It's got that very, very quiet lockup, kind of like the way it sounds like it's got a paper thin liner, and that you could just fold it while it's open. You can just fold it closed, and that kind of stuff matters. Like I said, nitpick. Another thing, I'm not a huge fan of this nail nick. Whenever I received it from Tony, it had all kinds of crud in it. Not the biggest fan. I understand, they're Danish knife makers and they're appealing to that market, but at the same time, it's not like you can remove this flipper tab or remove it without destroying the knife or voiding the warranty. So I don't really understand the nail nick open on there, and it's only on one side. Just kind of looks funny to me. let's see. Kind of a big complaint from me is the lock bar is flush, as you can see, is flush with the show side scale, making it kind of hard to get my finger in there. I have to, even though they have this chamfer in there, I have to shove the fat of my finger in there to disengage it, which is not the most comfortable thing to do over and over again. Found the easiest way to do it is the claw method, where you put your finger in there like that. At least that's what I call it. So it can be manipulated around, but like I said, it's still a nitpick. And I think I also talked about this, the blade being awfully close right here to being able to be touched. I can push down and feel it. I had no issues putting my hand in and out, but just something I would talk about. And another thing, and I did everything I could to fix it, but it is a little bit off-centered toward the right side. I don't know if you can see that there, just a tad bit. Not the end of the world. And so far, none of those things are hurting the functionality of the blade. But this next thing is, being that it already has a super early lockup, as you can see there. This knife has very slight up and down play, and that really scares me, being that you have very early lockup and that could easily slip off, disengage. It doesn't take much to disengage that lock. And look, without a hard flip, it's almost at 0% lockup. That's something that really concerns me, especially with a knife with a $325 price tag. Let's see, the last and certainly not least complaint I have. At first, it was something that I really enjoyed, and I still enjoy what they did here. As you can see in the inside of this, well, let me turn this down. In the inside of the knife, let's see if I can make it focus. No, hold on, let me see. You have, I'll tell you right now, you have Vox and Anzo with their logo made in Italy on the inside of this lock bar right here, which is an awesome touch. It keeps it off the blade and there's no billboarding. But for some reason, I'm sure it's cheaper to do, they blasted the lock bar. So it had a bead blast finish, kind of like the Kershaw Skylines had whenever they first came out. And I hate a blasted finish, because even though this lock bar is a stainless lock bar, whenever I disassembled this knife, this lock bar had rust spots all over it, front and back. And that is definitely due to the bead blast. Open up the pores of the stainless, causing moisture to be able to sit in those pockets, creating rust spots. And they were pretty bad. I had to get a buffing wheel out of my Dremel and buff out the spots. I had to put a Scotch-Brite wheel on there, get them out, and then fix the finish and make it look good again. Because if not, that rust would have kept eating at that liner. I mean, that's definitely not a place that you want to be destroyed. So that's very ugly. You know, why would you do that? You know, I mean, I know why they wanted to keep the colors, but you know, make it a titanium lock bar if that's the case. It's just not cool to see that much rust. And if I would have never taken that down, it would have kept rusting. And Tony, I don't know when he'd have taken it down, and he would have had, you know, deep rust spots that would have had pitting in there. And luckily, I was able to keep it from pitting. And if Tony, when you're watching this, if you notice, I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but I put a good bit of Peruvian wax on the inside and the outside to keep that rust from happening. And I also had a little coat of oil on there, and hopefully that won't happen anymore. So there you go. There's all my complaints. And now it's up to you to decide whether those complaints are enough for you to pass on this knife, or, you know, those are just nitpicks to you and you still want to go after it. This one, having that little bit of up and down, along with that early lockup, you know, I would have to pass. And it sucks because I absolutely love the aesthetics of this knife. absolutely beautiful. I love the ergos. The performance on this blade is outstanding. It has so many awesome features of this knife, and it's plagued by some minor things that I can't do it. That's just my thoughts, my feelings. So y'all let me know down in the comment section what y'all think. You know, would you buy this knife? Is it attractive to you? Do you own this knife? Do you have any of the same issues? I would definitely love to hear if you own the GM3 and you have any of the same issues, any of the rusting on the lock bar, any play up and down. Definitely like to hear from y'all down below. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, please leave them down below for me. If you want to just chat, do that too. If you like this video, please give it a big thumbs up. If you like my videos in general, hit that subscribe button. What are you waiting for? You don't want to miss anything. I have new content come out every week. Sometimes I have multiple videos depending on what's going on in my life. And I also do giveaways every so often. I definitely plan on doing more giveaways here in the near future. You don't want to miss out. So hope everybody's having an absolute wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. Peace.